Tesla is up this morning, unsurprisingly after yesterday, but it's the markets continue to be extremely weird. We'll talk about that later. I'm gonna totally go at this point with my 500,000 vehicles sold and 17 gigawatts of deployments, and record-breaking everything across the board, potentially way more than 500,000. But I'm just going to stick with 500,000. And the cryptocurrencies are they paying for the SpaceX IPO? Um, I'll make a case. All right, Tesla Chan is out this morning. He says, news, Tesla China recorded wholesale sales of 85,982 units in May, the highest number this year. The figure represents a 39% year-over-year increase and an 8.2% increase over April numbers. So at 100,000, call it, 85,000 average, let's say. That's so much harder to multiply, but we're looking at 250,000 vehicles out of China alone. I think the US and in Europe can make up the other 250,000. Okay, let's go on here. It says, breaking NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang just said this live on CNBC. Investing in SpaceX, Anthropic, and OpenAI will be similar to buying Amazon, Google, or Meta in the early days. And this guy he says he runs who is Jensen Huang? Oh yeah, he runs the world's largest company. It's worth 5.43 trillion now, and he probably has some. He's actually called some earlier things and that turned out to be true, like over and over again. Matt McClelland on LinkedIn says this morning: for the last 2 weeks, Covenant, you've seen the Covenant trucks all over the place, has been testing the capabilities of the Tesla Semi with one of our largest customers in California. As one of our final runs, they tackled the I-5 between Santa Clarita and San Joaquin Valley over the Tejon Pass, famously known as the Grapevine, a lane critical to trucks hauling cargo from the ports in Oakland, Los Angeles, and Long Beach. The Grapevine sits on an elevation of 4,160 feet, represents the highest point on the I-5 in California, and the northbound descent from Tejon Summit drops 2,613 feet over just 11.6 miles, with the steepest section known as the Grapevine Hill running at 6% grade for 5 miles. If you've ever been behind a truck on that particular stretch of road, you don't want to stay behind that truck going either up or down, because going up, they go super slow, going through their gears. And on the way down, they are, of course, hitting the brakes because they don't want to run away. Running the Grapevine with a loaded trailer is about as demanding as real-world tests can come up with for any truck. Running northbound, lose momentum on the street grade with a heavy load, and it can be stressful as the speed drops fast, and recovering on that grade is challenging. Running southbound requires attention to braking and heat management, which isn't a problem for an EV when you get regenerative braking doing most of the work. He says the Grapevine can be stressful even for our most experienced drivers. Our driver was amazed at the performance of the Tesla Semi and felt a level of confidence that was hard to match in a diesel truck. Well, Tesla just dropped a bombshell patent. This is Tesla-ing again. He says, and again, this is a reduced version of his explanation. It's dealing this particular patent. I mean, Tesla's patents like every single day coming out, and they're not just little unnecessary, who cares about it patents. These are bombshell patents. Solves the biggest headache in electric vehicles. How do you get both insane range and rocket ship acceleration without breaking the bank? The patent, published January 8th of 2026, is called Hybrid Traction Inverters for Electric Traction Motors. Tesla figured out they don't have to choose between two different chip technologies anymore. Now, see, this is all going to be in the chips, but if you go back about 3 years ago, I was asking, why couldn't we have hybrid batteries, to have two different kinds of batteries in the same battery pack that would solve this issue? Apparently, that's not that easy, but you do the chips, that comes in the software. Tesla figured out they don't have to change between the two different chip technologies anymore. Here's the problem in plain English. Silicon carbide chips are super efficient, perfect for highway cruising and max range, but they're expensive and fragile under massive power spikes. Old school silicon IGBT chips are cheap, tough, and can handle the brutal current, and the hard launch, but they waste energy and kill your range in normal driving. So engineers always had to compromise. Tesla's fix: put both chips in the same inverter and let a small controller decide which one works in real time. Cruising on the highway, the efficient SiC chips do the job. SIP battery. Floor it for the launch. The rugged IGBTs come in, jump in instantly, and take the punishment. The switch happens in nanoseconds with predictive logic so smooth you don't even feel it. The result: up to 75% less expensive silicon carbide needed, better range on everyday models like the Model 3 and Model Y, repeatable plaid-level performance on the Roadster without thermal throttling, and cheaper cars, stronger supply chain, and no more range versus power trade-off. This isn't vaporware. The patent was filed mid-2024. The tech is designed to drop straight into existing drive units. Tesla just built the ultimate hybrid drive, but it's 100% electric. That looks like a game changer on me. Sawyer Merritt says SpaceX has joined 3 other industry groups in calling on the FCC to adopt a nationwide policy to automatically unlock phones tied to the carrier's network 180 days after activation. Automobile mobile devices unlocking is essential to protecting consumer choice, promoting competition, and lowering costs in the mobile market. We urge the FCC to prioritize the needs of consumers and their families over large corporations' ability to thwart competition, says large corporation SpaceX. Did you see what I did there? The new physics. Charles Mullins, too, says SpaceX just got FAA approval to test its new Starfall capsules. These are not regular reentry vehicles. They're weird, wild reentry vehicles. SpaceX's new circular Starfall capsules are designed to bring up to 1,000 kilograms of payload back from orbit safely, repeatedly, and at scale. They can launch either on a Falcon 9 or a Starship, perform in-space manufacturing, then re-enter and splash down in the Pacific for rapid recovery. Why this matters: it enables true commercial in-space manufacturing, microgravity plus vacuum, that can be returned to Earth. This could become a proliferated successor to the ISS for the self-sustaining space industry. It opens the door to rapid point-to-point cargo delivery from orbit to anywhere on Earth. And it directly competes with companies like Varda that have been flying similar missions on SpaceX rockets. The deeper implication is massive. We are moving from an occasional experiment in space to routine manufacturing and logistics in orbit. I'm wondering whether this is something that could capture satellites in orbit and bring them back safely, and then reuse the satellites, just replacing the software, all the product, hardware and software inside. It says if Starfall works at scale, companies could build factories in space, produce high-value materials that can be made on Earth, that can't be made on Earth, and ship them back down regularly, all without needing a full-on space station. So Reuters, this is Reuters. I know it's Reuters. No, I think this is true. Britain has begun using SpaceX's militarized satellite network Starshield, according to 2 people familiar with the matter, making it among the first countries outside the United States to adopt Elon Musk's government-focused variant of Starlink. Starshield, developed for the U.S. government, is designed for military and intelligence missions with enhanced security features, while SpaceX's standard Starlink broadband service is aimed at consumer and commercial use. I would say to expect this to be used by every military on Earth that Elon will sell it to, meaning not China, not Russia, not North Korea, probably right now, not Iran. This is Randy Kirk. Nicholas Gibbs will be on later today, and you want to participate in his Investing Against the Grain options trading crash course. If you haven't already signed up for June and already taking it, or maybe you've already taken it, but if you're still interested, you better sign up for July before it sells out. So down below, you'll see the content, everything you need to know. Just click on the link. It'll take you to where you need to sign up, and boom, boom, you're done. Super simple. Jim Cramer. I know I don't quote Jim Cramer very often, but this was fascinating. Let's see, 80 billion for Google, probably 100 billion for Anthropic, 100 billion for OpenAI, and 100 billion for SpaceX, and then 100 billion for Amazon. Does this market have 500 billion in spare change? What has to be sold to raise it? Well, I asked Grok, I said, what is he talking about? Some of those sound bigger or whatever. Anthropic, recent large funding rounds. They've already raised 65 billion at near a 1 trillion valuation. Partnership with Amazon. IPO preparations add to their capital needs, so they may need to go back again. OpenAI, ongoing massive funding, recent rounds pushing toward 100 billion already, plus huge compute commitments and pre-IPO activity taking place now, as we have also with Anthropic. SpaceX targeting a massive IPO. We know that. Maybe a $2 trillion valuation, maybe 80 billion raised. Amazon, not yet on the news, but it's eye-popping $200 billion capex plan, which has already pressured its stock. Cramer is likely folding in potential future funding needs. And of course, the announced Google $80 billion deal yesterday. Well, there you go. Where is all that money going to come from? I think some of it is coming from Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down, 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 and there's no real reason for it right now. So I think people are cashing out their Bitcoin at the rate of, $1 billion every couple of days. It turns out to be real money. The number of job openings, are you ready? Go back and look what I said Sunday night first. Go back, check it out. What did I say Sunday night? I said job openings would increase, even though the estimate was that they would stay the same. The number of job openings increased to 7.6 million in April, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. 6.9 was what was expected. 7.6 is what we got. 6.9 was what it was in March. Over the month, hires and total separations decreased to 5.1 million and 5.0 million, respectively, with separations and quits only at 3 million total, layoffs and discharges at 1.7 million. So not too bad on the layoffs and the quit side. This release includes estimates of a number of rate of job openings, hires, and separations. So we got in April, job openings increased. We said that. Hires, the number and rate of hires decreased by 419,000, so at 10%. And the total separations, including quits, layoffs, and discharges, quits are okay. That's really all there was to say. The job opening situation suggests only one thing: the economy is booming, and all the worries about, well, at least for this month, all the worries about AI eating up jobs and no hiring and lots of layoffs ain't happening. It's just not happening. So Tesla is now at 421.60. It has been hanging around up there all morning, about up 1.38. Where are we going from here? The trend would look on this particular chart, the trend would look like it's heading higher, but we'll see what happens later in the day. The Dow, fairly flat after going up a little bit this morning, 0.26, but it's been flat from there. The NASDAQ up 0.04 at 27,096. I think that's an all-time high. Pretty sure it is. Again, up a little bit and then flat. Same thing on the S&P, up 0.09. Now, those three seem to be in tandem, Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. But then when you start looking at the Mag 7, you've got Apple up 2.71. Of course, Tesla up 1.37, NVIDIA down 0.11, Google down 2.37, Microsoft down 3.62, Amazon down 1.3, and Meta up 0.82. And the charts are like in all different directions. It is really, really, really weird. So who can figure out what is going on today with all of that? The VIX is still under 16 at 1597. By the way, you want to take a gander at how I set up my thing? See, and you can see that the charts are just going in nothing. I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 days, you can't distinguish between the directionality by hours. All right, you've got the Cathie Woods finally taking a breather, and pretty significant breathers at that. Most of them are down, sometimes in the 4%, 3% range. What happened to the Cathie Woods, given that today, I think we're going to see that bonds continue back down again today after being up yesterday. Bonds are down 2 basis points back to 4.47, 4.457, call it 4.46. So that's good, but it was up, substantially yesterday. Oil is continuing up, $1.39, $1.41 for Texas Intermediate, 93 bucks 57. Brent is up only a buck at $96.01. Natural gas is continuing to sell off, but still above $3 at $3.16. Gold up 10 bucks, 4,517. Silver up about 0.47% at 75, staying over 75, 75,605. Copper up 1.63, completely breaking through to all-time highs at $6.66. Those data centers are getting more expensive by the day. The dollar is in a tight range with mixed right now. From what I can see, we've got Bitcoin down another 3,000. That's 5.32% on the day. That is well over, that's probably $1.5 billion coming out of Bitcoin. You've got Ethereum down 3.76. I don't have a dollar number on that, but it's a lot. I asked Rock this morning to help me with those numbers. So I think some of this is going right. These are risk on, right? How much more risk on can you be than Bitcoin? We're now down to 67,478 again on Bitcoin. Recent lows were in the 64 and even a little lower. So we're heading towards testing those recent lows. All right, that's what's happening in the markets today. As I mentioned just a minute ago, you got Nick Gibbs coming up later today. Just a little while ago, Brian White was on, and I'll put that card up. Last night, you had Larry Goldberg. I'll put that card up in case you didn't catch either one of those. And that's what's going to happen all day, all the rest of today. And then what else is there for me to tell you? Oh, yeah, sign up for Nick Gibbs' course. Remember, the June one sold out already. They're selling out faster and faster. If you want to get in on July, I think you should go down and check it out. They're not expensive. This is an all-day course. You'll be shocked at how inexpensive it is. Go ahead and check it out. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything more to say. So I will say it's been great talking to you.